Welcome to yet another exciting episode of Kilimo na Biashara, and today we want to explore an excellent addition to your healthy diet. I'm speaking about mushrooms. There are different varieties, but today we specifically want to explore oyster. Within oyster, there are different varieties and they come in different colors. So are you curious to know which type that this farmer is farming? Then let's go join him. Maurice.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Karibu
to the Livingstone's farm.
Thank you so
where
much.
we grow all manner of crops, in particular oyster mushrooms.
Ooh.
Yes.
But before we talk about mushrooms,
yes,
what are other crops that you have?
We have coffee. We also do traditional vegetables time to time, and also the subsistence farming of maize and beans. Yes, but what we have been championing so far is the mushroom growing.
Now tell me about oyster mushroom.
Yes, it is exciting to do mushrooms. In fact, it grows in 24 hours. It doubles in size in 24 hours.
Whoa.
So it's a crop that is amazing us, and we are loving what you're doing. Yes, in particular oyster mushrooms, it takes a very short time, and then it is not expensive to produce.
And why mushrooms specifically?
Well, it is a long story.
Make it short, but we need to hear that story.
So I was just looking for something else to do. I was tired of the subsistence, maize and beans, without breaking even. So I wanted to do strawberries at first. So I talked to someone who was doing strawberries. They guided me on everything that needs to be done. But then again told me there's even a more lucrative crop, which is called mushrooms. Before that, I think my experience with mushrooms was very little. I knew zero or to nothing about mushrooms. I had consumed only on pizza, maybe once or twice. So after that, we did research. She took me through on what is needed, and passion grew. I started with button mushroom. It didn't go so well, so I had to get trained and visited farms who were producing mushrooms by that time. And then after many months of research, of training, I did another crop which did so well for button mushrooms. And then I got someone who trained me on oyster mushrooms. Then I saw oyster is even easier to do. That's how I landed onto the crop.
I like the way you say oyster mushroom is easy. But is it capital intensive? Let's begin with that.
Not so much, not so much. With as little as 30,000, you can start your journey with oyster mushrooms. But now we have farms which we invest up to millions of shillings, and also now economies of scale makes their production cost to come down. So you can start small with view of growing.
Wow.
Yes.
I see there's a lot of activity happening right behind you.
Yes.
Tell me, is this the first step?
We are preparing our first crop, or rather our crop for oyster mushrooms. This is the first step, what we do. We are mixing the straw together with coast calcium. Coast calcium is calcium hydroxide, which raises the pH of the water. This is the first step of pasteurizing our substrate. So for mushrooms to grow, they need a sterile or clean environment and clean media to grow. Wheat straw is when it's taken from the farms, usually dirty. It has seeds inside, it has other dirt, other particles, weeds. So we need to pasteurize that so that when we inoculate or introduce the mushroom seed, nothing else will grow but the mushrooms. So this is the first step. We shall soak it for about 30 minutes, and then we spread it onto our other supplement, which is sawdust. Mahogany to be precise, because it is hardwood. Mushrooms like consuming hardwood.
Does it have to be hardwood?
It will grow, but not so much. And since as we are doing it economically, we want it to produce as much as possible. Yes. Then after we spread it, we shall mix also with the wheat bran. Wheat bran is a supplement that raises the nitrogen content. Mushrooms also like nitrogen.
So is it the normal wheat bran that
yes, it is.
normally used for kettle?
Is the normal wheat bran. So these items they are readily available. You can get them in the agrovets, even in the hardware. We are using agricultural lime. Agricultural lime will help in balancing the pH for everything.
So there is a lot that really comes into the first step. You have to assemble a lot of things.
Yes. You have to assemble all the materials, all the substrate that you shall be using. You have to weigh. This is where now the science comes in. It is an art and a science. So you have to weigh everything because there are ratios that you need to use for you to get a good crop. So if you mess up in that mixing all that up, you can mess up your production. You can get mold, which is contamination, is a type of contamination, and it will affect your productivity.
I'm sure someone is curious to know the ratios.
Yes, yes, yes.
So what's the ratio?
Yes, so it's about 50-50, 50 of wheat straw and 50% of sawdust. You mix them all up with about 10% of wheat bran, just to add the nitrogen, and then 3% of agricultural lime, and 500 grams of coarse calcium in every drum of water. Yes, so the beauty with all this, we do trainings here. If someone is interested to learn, they can follow us up and we shall be able to teach them all this.
It's truly intensive.
Yes, it is.
One mistake and the produce is
produce is either you don't get anything or you get very minimal produce, and it will hurt your pocket because you will burn your fingers and not recoup anything.
Quite interesting. Now, continue. What's the other process?
So after doing this, we shall mix it up and then we shall start bagging.
Yeah.
After bagging, we shall bag into 2 kgs of substrate, and then we shall go to the next step of pasteurizing. After we bag in 2 kgs of substrate, this substrate we shall put them in 2 kgs. Those bags are also called gardens because it is where now the mushrooms will grow from. But before we inoculate, we need to pasteurize further. So this is the first step. This is the second step of steaming. This is cold pasteurization. We also have hot pasteurization using steam, where we steam the bags for 2 hours.
So steaming using what? What do you steam it with?
Using mortar, using fire, open fire. We just, and a drum which has a mesh inside. We light the fire, we let it boil, and then after it starts steaming on at the top, we count 2 hours to make sure it is well pasteurized.
Oh, so you have to put a timer?
Yes, or you can just note down, and then after the 2 hours, you let it, you open the bag, you open the drum, you let some steam escape, and then you remove all the bags. You let them cool, and then the following morning, you come and inoculate.
And what's the importance of steaming, really?
Again, pasteurizing and sterilizing. We want a clean environment. We don't want anything to grow. This one might remove any bacteria, any pathogens that might be there, but the seeds, especially the wheat is quite stubborn, so it will not die off. In fact, this one is like you're feeding the wheat seed. So if you just bag the way it is and inoculate and take to the incubation room, what normally happens is the wheat seeds, they start germinating. So you might find some lengthy seedlings of wheat inside the bag, and that is not what we need. We need mushrooms. So to minimize that, or to make sure that one does not happen, you have to steam further for about 2 hours.
Ah, so to eliminate all the pathogens.
Yes, any other seed, a foreign seed that might be on the substrate, it is killed off, and then we let it cool. When it is about 26 to 28 degrees, that's when we inoculate. Yes.
I see you use a lot of water in this process.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering, does it have to be specific pH or just normal
yes, you
water?
need to raise the pH. Actually, that's why we're using the coarse calcium. In fact, we are raising the pH right now using the calcium hydroxide. We are raising the pH to about 12 to 13, which is quite alkaline, and it might eliminate any contamination that might be on the substrate.
But what's the hardest part, especially in this first stage?
The first section, I think, is mixing all these up. You need manpower, you cannot do it alone. Yes, so I think this is the hardest part. After this, now the steaming, and then after that is easy. But there's another critical part of inoculation, which we shall come to later.
So I'm curious to know what's happening there. I want to help.
Join in, please.
And perhaps I can try.
Yes, please.
It's teamwork right here as they are mixing wheat bran and mahogany. I'm doing cold pasteurization right here. It's blend of calcium with a wheat straw. It's called cold pasteurization. But we're nowhere close to the end. We're just taking a short commercial break. Be sure to stay with us because we have inoculation. Have you ever heard about inoculation? We'll be right back.
Wapwani mpo, Kilifi na Kwale tumewasili. Sasa unaweza burudika na Star Times DTT kila maeneo ya miji ya Kilifi na Kwale. Tumbuika na vipindi kemkem vya kusisimua katika station yetu mpya ya Rainbow TV Plus kuanzia Julai tarehe 1. Rainbow TV Plus, kina cha burudani. Wasiliana na customer care kwa nambari 0719 077 077 hivi leo. Upate taarifa zaidi pa kununua DTT Star Times decoder. Uenjoy zaidi ya channel 75 local na international. Usiwachwe nyuma. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
And welcome back to Kilimo na Biashara Show. Thank you so much for staying with us. And if you're just joining us today, we are focusing on oyster mushroom farming. And right here, you saw the cold pasteurization. This is the heat pasteurization. And Maurice,
Yes.
from here, where do we go to?
Yes, after pasteurizing for 2 hours, we take them to the incubation house for inoculation.
Okay.
Yes.
So we ride it.
Yes.
So tell me about the structure, because I know typically mushroom houses are normally very cold.
So the structure that we are in, it's a hybrid. It's an incubation house and as well as a grow house. And hence we incubate, and that's why you see the black polythene. You have to make sure there's darkness inside. And more so not darkness, what we are after is covering the whole area such that we don't have air coming in from outside. We need carbon dioxide to build up in the incubation house so that colonization is faster. So this place is also where we do the inoculation. So after steaming and getting all the bags ready, we bring them here inside. You have to be in a sterile environment. So you sterilize using the methylated spirit, and then the gadgets that you're supposed to be using to inoculate, you have to dip them in the jig first.
But what is inoculation?
Inoculation is simply adding the mushroom seed into our substrate. That is what we call inoculation. Yes.
So tell us the procedure of inoculation.
Yes. So after you have everything ready, everything is clean, you sanitize your hands, and then you can now open the bag. We open the bag, you get the spawn outside, just a little bit of it, and then you put it on top of the substrate. Here you don't come into contact with the contact of the bugs, because now you might interfere with that, you might infect them with the contaminations, and mushrooms will not grow from there. So after that, we put a cotton wool on top, and then we close again using the rubber band. The essence of the cotton wool is to make sure, because the spawn is living organism, this is fungi, it needs to breathe. But we also don't want a contaminated air coming in. So the cotton wool assists with sifting or filtering any air that is coming inside. So after that, it's ready for incubation, and you can arrange them in your incubation house.
So these ones have stayed here for how long?
We've done them last week, so they have 7 days here inside, and you can see they've already started colonization.
Wow. From here, where do we go to?
Yes, so now we go to the grow house, where we have ready mushrooms growing from there, and we shall harvest today.
Woo, let's go.
Yes, please.
Maurice, so before we even talk about oyster mushroom, tell me about the regulation of temperature here, because it's quite humid.
It's supposed to be like that, under 20 degrees if possible, but for the oyster mushrooms, they are versatile a little bit, not compared to other types of mushrooms like button and so forth. So for here, we just pour water on the floor, and then we mist using an knapsack sprayer once per day, and that is enough.
So it has to be cool.
Yes, it has to be cool throughout. It has to have aeration of air. That's why you see all the windows opening, so that we have to be fresh exchange of air. Yes.
How long have you been harvesting, or you've not started yet?
Yes, actually we are on the tail end of harvesting this. We have done about a month, 2 months and a half. We are nearing the third month now, but they're still quite versatile. They're producing a lot, so we are happy. We want to get as much as possible. So from one bag, we have the potential to get from half a kg to 1.5 kgs of mushrooms.
Per harvest?
Per harvest, of which takes about 2 months, but for us we shall stretch it up to the third month.
We'll talk about the money factor a little bit later on, but tell me about the management practices in order for one to get good yield.
It starts from where we were, preparation stage. You have to be very keen, know the ratios of mixing what and what. That one will give you more productivity if you have a substance that is high in nitrogen. Then it comes to hygiene. You have to be very hygienic. Mushrooms do not want any dirt, do not want any contamination, any pathogen. That is why we do 2 types of pasteurization, the cold one and the hot one. Yes, and then the seed that you're using, or the spawn, it has to be strong, and it also has to be, it doesn't have any contamination. So those things are what to look out for if you want to harvest your mushroom for longer.
So once you've started harvesting, do you add anything?
In fact, you don't add anything else. You just mist water and maintain the temperatures and cleanness. It is a very low maintenance crop. That's all you need to do. The first week of harvesting is usually where you need to be there every day to harvest mushrooms, because mushrooms will be growing every other day. Remember, at the incubation house, the bags were still brown. The colonization had just started. So these ones you're seeing, they are fully colonized. All the bag has turned into white, and that is mycelium. Mycelium has traveled, colonizing the substrate, looking for food. When it gets food, it feeds on that, and now it's able to produce the mushrooms. What we feed on is the fruit. That is the fruit of the mushroom. Yes, and if you stay long, if you keep them longer, they open up completely, and then they start now producing spores. Which spores is another seed. Is where we collect the seeds from. We get the spawn from there, and then you can propagate and get more seed. Yes.
The more you talk, one would think this is an easy venture, but is it? Tell me about the challenges.
Oh, there are so many challenges. There are so many challenges. First of all is the skill of the farmer. If you don't have the skill to grow the mushrooms, definitely your mixing ratios will be off, and chances are you'll get contamination. If you're lucky enough to get mushrooms, productivity will not be enough. The second challenge is pests and diseases. Mushrooms has a lot of pests and diseases, especially mold. Mold is what we get after contamination, and if you did not drain your water well, then your substrate is too wet, you can also get mold from there, and then the bugs can start rotting. Instead of mycelium spreading, then the substrate rots and you not get any produce from there.
So I see the style that you've adopted here, quite a unique style, and you've held them so tightly, the grow bags. Is this the only method one can use, or what are other methods?
No, there are other methods. So this was what we realized we need to avoid some pest called the rat. The rat, if you use shelves, the shelving is another way you can place your mushrooms on top. But then again, when you use shelves, then behind the shelves, you bring in, or rather you're creating a home for the rats. So they'll be feeding on the mushrooms and then living behind there. So then they populate very fast.
Isn't it an expensive venture, really?
Compared to the others, this is the most inexpensive. This is quite affordable. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Now tell me about this structure, because the other one was, one of the criteria was it has to be dark. Yes. This one has to be cold. What are other differences?
Yes. The other one has to be locked completely because you don't want air coming inside. We want CO2 to build up for easier and faster colonization. In the growing room is the opposite of that. So here you need exchange of air. You need air coming in and flowing inside the house nicely. So that one helps the mushrooms to grow a lot. If you enclose everything, then there will not be oxygen and mushrooms will be fruiting very little. Or you have some leggy mushrooms. You have them, like, the stalk is longer as compared to the cup being bigger.
So what does the market really need?
The cap is what you need we shall harvest that and package and take to the market. Yes.
And now to the money factor. How much does it retail at?
Okay, it's retailing, I think from the supermarket is 269, one punnet, which is 250 grams or quarter kg. Yes, so that's the retail from the supermarkets. And then for a farmer, one bag can give you up to 520 shillings. That is a kilo. And you can be able to harvest a kilo from one bag. Yes, that is the average harvest, between 0.5 kg to 1.5 kg. So the average is a kg. So from a farmer, spending between 180 shillings, 150 to 180, and then you get 520 from each bag.
So tell me, when you compare your capital and the returns on investment, how is it?
It can give you 100% of your investment. Yes, within those 3 months, you can be able to recoup between 60 to 80%. That is a good return on investment.
And that is the local market. Have you thought about the international market, the export market?
Yes, we have thought about the export market, but then again, production costs here in the country are way too high for us to compete with other countries. Yes, everything is taxed here. The materials that we are using, you get them, and then we are competing with livestock keepers. So that is one of the challenges we normally get. But we carried out a research whereby we are trying out other materials to see which will be more productive. If it can be produced more or as much as the wheat straw, then we can use that and then we can target other markets outside. But we're thinking of about, as Mycelia and Foods Limited, we want to target the export market using value-added products of mushrooms, whereby we do dry the mushrooms, we mill it into powder, and then we can export either as dry or as powder. Here in the local market, especially in the farmers market, we are doing a lot of cookies, mushrooms made from cookies. Yes, so whereby we take the mushroom powder, 10% of it, we mix with 90% of wheat flour, and then we bake normal cookies.
And how is the market receiving this?
Market session is quite good because you're not just snacking, you are eating and getting health benefits in your body. And then it's savory, it has a savory taste. So people who have not tasted mushrooms before, that is an easier entrant way of consuming mushrooms, using the mushroom cookies.
Judging from how you're smiling, you truly love mushrooms. But tell me, what do you like best about it, and what are some of the health benefits?
Yes, mushrooms are very high in protein, and yes, I cannot go a week without consuming mushrooms in one form or the other. You can saute, you can have it as a stew, or you can use the mushroom powder. For me, who loves porridge a lot, I like adding a tablespoon or two in a jug of porridge. You mix it all up, and then it should give you the health benefits. We talk about the protein. It's about 30% protein, and then mushrooms, they have selenium and folate. Folate is more of the B complex, vitamin B complex, and the selenium now helps in detoxification of the body. Yes, so those are the health benefits with mushrooms, among others.
Okay, can we harvest now?
Yes, we can. Let's wash our hands first.
Okay, let's wash our hands. Wow, this is truly impressive. Yes. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Most welcome, and thank you for having us. It was a pleasure, and hope you've learned something. Here we grow the white variety. There are many varieties there in the market, but as a Mycelia and Foods Limited, we concentrate on the white because that's what the market needs. There are others like brown, there's blue, there's yellow, but here we grow the white one.
Wow.
Yes.
Impressive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana.
Wow.
Allow me to go and pack.
All right.
Thank you.
Wow, and you've had it from the horse's mouth. That is what the market needs. It's oyster mushroom. Well, there are different varieties available in the market, but I hope you've gotten some inspiration from this farmer who's ventured into oyster mushroom farming. Thank you so much for being part of the show today. See you again next Sunday for yet another exciting episode of Kilimo na Biashara. See you.
Wapwani mpo? Kilifi na Kwale tumewasili. Sasa unaweza burudika na Star Times DTT kila maeneo ya miji ya Kilifi na Kwale. Tumbuika na vipindi kemkem vya kusisimua katika station yetu mpya ya Rainbow TV Plus kuanzia Julai tarehe 1. Rainbow TV Plus, kina cha burudani. Wasiliana na customer care yako nambari 0719 077 077 hivi leo. Upate taarifa zaidi pa kununua DTT Star Times decoder. Uenjoy zaidi ya channel 75 local na international. Usiwachwe nyuma. Star Times. Enjoy